Up to this point in the series, we've been building the individual pieces of Paul's relational theology. We've looked at Genesis 2, at relational origin, at one out of the other order, and at glory as relational visibility. Now it's time to bring all of this together into a single pattern that Paul uses again and again. Paul does not argue randomly. He works with a consistent relational grammar. That grammar has 4 parts: identity, order, posture, and action. Once you see this pattern, Paul's letters begin to read very differently. Paul always begins with identity. Let me repeat that. Paul always begins with identity. Before he tells people what to do, he tells them who they are. In Christ, believers are chosen. They are redeemed. They are forgiven. They are raised with Christ. They belong to Him. Identity, for Paul, is never earned. It is given. It precedes every command. This is why Paul spends so much time at the beginning of his letters describing what God has done before he ever turns to how Christians should live. From identity, Paul moves to order. Order describes how God has arranged relationships in creation and redemption. This order is not hierarchy. It is not about rank, power, or control. It is about relational direction. Christ and the church, man and woman, parents and children, the body and its members. Order names how relationships are oriented toward one another. It tells us where life flows from and how relationships are meant to be held together. Order does not tell people how valuable they are. It tells them how they are related. From order comes posture. Posture describes the orientation of the heart within a given relationship. Submission, humility, willingness, honor. Posture is not something you perform. It is not an outward action. It is the stance you take toward another person under Christ. 2 people can perform the same action with very different postures. Paul is concerned first with posture, because posture shapes meaning. And finally, from posture flow actions. Actions are what Paul commands explicitly: love, reverence, forgive, encourage, serve, nourish, cherish. These are imperatives. They are concrete volitional behaviors. They are things Christians are told to do. Paul is careful not to confuse these categories. Submission is posture. Love and reverence are actions. When posture is mistaken for action, submission becomes something to enforce. When action is mistaken for posture, love becomes a feeling rather than a command. Paul keeps these distinctions clear because collapsing them distorts relationships. When identity, order, posture, and action remain aligned, Paul's teaching is coherent and life-giving. When they are collapsed into one another, his teaching is misread as arbitrary or oppressive. This 4-fold grammar is one of the most important keys to reading Paul well. In the next video, we'll apply this grammar carefully to Ephesians chapter 5 and see how it shapes Paul's teaching about husbands and wives. Thank you for watching.